who has been torn away from their security blanket, their parents, the ones who stop the boogeyman from terrorizing the nights and curing their boo-boos when they scrape their knees. Now just imagine how they must feel when the CPS meant to protect them tears them away from their supposed abusers and places them with strangers who have zero comforting skills. They need to be calmed. They are confused, lost, panicked, and needing their parents, but CPS took them away for the purpose of saving them. The kids don't even know why, and they are told that the parents they attach to no longer want them. What do you think that does? Do you think that this is how protecting children is supposed to look? Abolish CPS.
Psalm 127:3. Children are a heritage from the Lord, offspring a reward from Him. This suggests children are a precious gift from God to be valued and cared for.
In the United States, a child a minute is taken into DHS, CPS, and so on custody. The reality is their picks are already selected, you just don't know it. Being perfect no longer matters. It's what the adopting families are looking for.
Who is it stealing the children, you ask?
From caseworker to the White House, the buck stops at all levels, just not where it is supposed to be. The services your family needs, we the people have paid for to ensure your reunification. Title IV says, reunify at all costs. United, we stand means nothing to us when it comes to family values. Children are being ripped away from their families. Parents are reverting to addictive behaviors to cover the pain. The trauma caused by child removal is just being recognized, and the results are atrocious. Termination of parental rights is not healthy for anyone, just profitable for the people enforcing the lie.
It's time Washington listens to the cries of our children, the wails of their mothers, and the rage growing in the fathers. These are our children. Keep your damn hands off them. We are coming to act on the behalf of the children God gave us to protect, and you kidnapped.
CPS makes upwards of $3 billion per day on trafficking and selling our children. The corruption may start with the caseworker, but goes through the judicial system, passing the governor through the Senate and into the White House. The entire system has a hand in the business known as CPS.
Our children are stolen every minute of a 24-hour day. They are being robbed of their innocence, their trust, their happiness. As parents, we are isolated and betrayed by a government we trust. States are balancing budgets on kids' lives. Only 12% of the kids taken will be reunified. Title IV funding is being riveted with fraud.
We need to stop CPS and AbolishCPS.com is leading the way. Join us.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to CPS Victims Hunting Justice. I am your host, the CPS Punisher, and it is Monday night here. Used to be Josie Mondays, but now it is no longer because our beloved Josie has been forced to not speak on any of these topics anymore. She's been ixnayed from the world of social media, which is awful. So I would like any of you that are out there. Oh, and Gunner now has been also ixnayed from the world of TikTok. So if any of you guys can get loud, make complaints for our beloved Josie and for Gunner, go to TikTok, make complaints about them banning Gunner, and go wherever you can and scream out loud for Josie, because this is atrocities that have happened to her. So if you guys could do that, don't forget we got the chat right over here. Obviously we use that. Like, share, hit the bell. You know what? Do all these things that people say that we can do. Let's get them. Let's get it done, man. Let's get some people on here so we can get this algorithm up. We are doing a great job at carrying people onto the show, and more people are joining us. So please, guys, keep sharing this thing. Keep helping us along. But tonight we got a bunch of special people in the house. I got my good friend Candace with us tonight. We got our main man Gunner, and we got Vinny. So I'm gonna just bring them all out here at once. Let's get it on. Well, let me find them all. Hold on. All right, here we all are. Gunner, Candace, Vinny, my friends, how are we?
Yeah. So we're gonna piss off today.
Oh, we're gonna piss somebody off. This is great. Listen, this is like, so Candace is wow, I can't even believe that she's on the show. I've been trying to get Candace on these shows forever. But Candace,
look, I just got out the shower.
I've been fighting CPS together since the beginning of our beginnings. And one way or the other, we always come back across each other. This girl is such a wealth of knowledge. Any questions you have for this woman, she will nail it on the head and then some. So please use her while she is here with us, because she's got it. But yeah, that being said, what's up, people? Who's got something good to talk about? Danny, give us an update.
Maybe.
Well, as you all know, I had court Thursday. I have a meeting with my attorney tomorrow. So that's looking promising. I have talked to Richard. He's definitely looking into the jurisdiction thing and the.
Oh, Candace will help you with that one. Candace is an expert on that, Vinny.
I wouldn't say an expert, but
no, you're pretty damn close, Candace. You
got
questions, Vinny? Fire away for Candace right now. Any sort of jurisdiction questions, Bubba? Fire away.
The only main question I really have to ask her is, isn't it true that it's supposed to be 6 months of you living in a place before they have jurisdiction?
Candace, are you frozen?
I think we
Yeah,
lost
I did that to you earlier.
You scared the frozen out of her. You scared the frozen. Candace, come back.
She may have to do a reboot like I did. I mean, I could help you in a minute. Yeah, there it was.
Hey, at least she had a good frozen picture. So we'll hold the video.
Hey, listen, man. Listen. Hey, just let it go.
All right.
Let it go.
Easy. Yeah, everybody. All right, there she is. Candace, you're back.
My bad, guys. I lost signal. Yes, I lost signal.
Did you hear what Vinny had asked you?
So what's everybody up to?
Vinny, go ahead and pose her the question again.
Well,
Okay.
I actually had something.
Hold on, answer this one for Vinny first, though, and then you go ahead.
Isn't it true that with jurisdiction, you have to be placed, you have to be living in that area for more than 6 months?
Candace, jurisdiction. How long do you have to have? Vinny asks you, do you have to be the baby? The child has to lay their head in for 6 months somewhere to get jurisdiction, correct?
Yeah.
So
for the most part, yeah. For them to establish, well, I don't know. I can't say that because, like, at the beginning, like when your child is first born, wherever you put that, where your child's born at the hospital, that's normally known as your geographical location, which that's where your jurisdiction would lie.
But what about when they move the child?
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. You know what?
Okay.
Kill your video. Kill your.
Hey,
Oh, there you go. You're moving. Yeah.
Guys, let me make one note here. This is for the state of Maine. So please understand the jurisdiction of some of these things as far as what it is may vary unless this is federal. So make sure that you're double checking things in your state. There may be things that are passed in your own state as under the state sovereignty that may vary that particular law.
Well, regardless, you got to go by the UCCPA. Okay.
Well, I was just doing a little. I was doing a little disclaimer
actually,
there, Darren. That's all.
I got you. I love you for that. Are you there, Candace?
Honestly, this is what I would say. As far as the UCC's there and everything's under contract. It don't matter what it is that you're doing. Even with us speaking right now with each other, it's all contract. So I think that's more or less how people need to start looking at this situation versus going in and looking at a jurisdiction, because at this point in time, nobody has jurisdiction. The United States hasn't had a judge since 1789. Therefore, all courts are administrative courts. Therefore, they don't have the jurisdiction. None of these judges are actually real judges. So I think the most important thing at this point in time is really looking at the fact that this is a contract. Letting these folks into your home is a contract. When you're signing stuff, it's a contract. You don't get full disclosure. And honestly, that's how you can actually have your signatures rescinded off of these documents, because you're not getting full disclosure. But that's probably the most important thing you need to actually realize.
That's it. So what did you want to talk about, Candace? You just said you had something to bring to the table tonight. What did you want to bring up, girl? Me? Oh, we lost her. We scared her again. We lost her again. Anyway, she'll be back. I could talk for days with that girl on the phone, and she'll never lose service. But now, because she's on the show,
See, this is where a lot of loopholes and everything else begin to develop due to the fact that it can vary from state to state, and you can further define certain things so long as it doesn't do with the Constitution as far as what they're saying, jurisdiction over this and that. Understand that's all commercial. Understand those are codes and regulations and everything else, and federal laws specifically states, and they hate seeing this, and they want to throw it out. And it's one thing that you can take and throw out there, that without that contract law, all rules, codes, rules, regulations, and such like are for government only. Why? Because they lack due process, and it's unconstitutional. There's already federal case law on that. So when they come up and write you tickets and this is what everybody's uncovering a little bit of time. These are codes. These are commercial. If I'm doing business, that's why the thing on the interstates and the roadways and everything else is, I'm not doing this for business or to make a check. This is my personal private view, and that's where a lot of it comes in. There is a line about that, and until they came up of saying, well, we want to keep track of this, and that. Why? Because you're signing over that right, because you get a title to the car. You don't get an allodial title to the car to where you truly own it. When you understand some of those different things of how things are titled, and there's a lot of legal loopholes, and basically they found a way to make money by forcing a specific title. When you title something with the state, you're doing joint ownership with it. So that's why they get away with half the stuff of, well, now we can put you under. Why? Because we have a contract, and then that contract is regulated because you're on the open roadways. Now you're in a commercial setting. Why? Because we own the car together, which is why you played everything. When you get into allodial titles and this, that, then you can surpass the states. And actually, the U.S. Department of Education or U.S. Department of Transportation will issue you a private plate. That is a legal form of a private plate, and it's actually a legal way of doing things that you don't have to go through the state, and it bypasses that. And they hate that because then you have a federal plate that doesn't go through of saying I'm not connected to a state. There's a lot of things that go with that with nationals, and the funny one was sovereign nationals or state nationals. They go, no, we're just Americans. We live under the Constitution, and that's it. Everything else is for government. The supreme law of the land is the Constitution. So unless I'm breaking the law, in other words, I'm infringing upon somebody else's constitutional issues that are criminal actions or taking a life, or I've damaged somebody's property, you've really got no right or anything to even interact with me. Police don't have a thing to just stop and ask questions, everything else. You need to just leave me alone. You're supposed to be reactive. When something happens, that's when it happens. When the accidents happen, speed limits, everything else, those are considered, preventative. In other words, this road is rated for this particular thing or how safe you can drive, such as other countries like Germany on the Autobahn and so on and so forth. It's the fact that not many people have an experience of driving anymore. They don't drive everywhere. We're not in love with our cars like what we used to be back during, I don't know, what would you say, the 60s, the 70s, when muscle cars were supreme in our history. I mean, now we've got injection with a lot of things. I mean, but you're still running some monsters that are still doing it old school. And you're talking 10-second cars or less. There's some electrics that are going through it as well. But our lives are evolving right before our eyes. I mean, with just what we've seen, just as a Gen Xer, the internet's a new thing. What we're doing today was never possible when we were children. I mean, it didn't exist unless you had a phone that had a line to it. You didn't talk to nobody. You wanted to find somebody, they didn't have a GPS stuck up their butt. A lot of these other things, yes, it's prevented a lot of things of crime and this, but it's also opened us up to all sorts of new crimes, cyber crimes, and all this other stuff. And we're all trying to catch up and do the best we can. But right now, things are moving at a speed of light that it's never done in history, or a long time in history with some major advancements in a short period of time. And with that,
only 100 years ago, man, what are we doing, right? We barely have a radio.
Yeah. I mean, our country's not even that old. I mean, what are we, just a hair over 250 now? I mean, come on. I mean, this is ridiculous. I mean, we're really a young nation. We're not the youngest, but for a superpower, we're the youngest, what was considered one of the youngest superpowers in the world. But we lost a lot of that ranking and that respect because everybody else has got an influence on what should be happening in our lives and our homes instead of just leaving us alone. Unless there's a crime, why are you involved with anything? It's unconstitutional. Just that simple. Jurisdiction or not, we're supposed to be living under the Constitution as the supreme law of the land. Because of the Chevron doctrine, once again, has caused, we have 40 years worth of cleanup because of the overturn of that doctrine, and they are embedded very deep because they knew one day this was going to stop and that they would overturn a case or something would happen, and that's exactly what happened. I mean, even Roe versus Wade was overturned. I hear a lot of people and attorneys say, well, same thing with SEC versus Jarsky. Well, that talks about, this and this and that. I said, no, go watch Roe, go read Roe versus Wade. There's nothing in there about abortion. Not a thing in there about abortion. Nothing. It's how they interpreted what the judge said to fit and twist their, to twist the method. And it's done in law all the time. This is how the judge describes it, good or bad. The problem was it was a really, really bad ruling. And we've been living under it for 40 years. And it's caused us all sorts of things to where everybody thinks they have power. There's no power but the Constitution. Other than that, leave us alone. We don't need the infrastructures. We don't need the government's interference with this, with most of it. And what are you doing? You're taxing us to death. And then you come up with a system with CPS even saying, let me give you a good example. If you can't afford to put a roof over your kid's head or food in their mouths, those type of things, we're going to take your children. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts to it, because they did the same thing in North Carolina, where they took all those kids after being in a natural freaking disaster with no compassion. And just a fight over a pissing contest over who cut a thing on a road that was cut in that wasn't a legal road, and start finding people to still do this because you didn't do the plan the way we did. You took care of it yourselves. We're going to penalize you for it. What the hell is going on with this world? We used to help each other. It used to be a good thing that you'd help out people, and then they started dividing and then poisoning us with our foods and everything else. And you wonder why everybody's, a little kooky or a little bit off. Now you're over medicated. Now the psych whole thing is coming. Hey, it ain't about what the facts are anymore. And you see it right there. It's how everybody feels. Everybody that's out there that's been in family court will tell you it's a feelings court. There ain't no damn facts or law or anything to it. It's about how you feel or how that person feels that way and what they decide, not a jury of your peers, as it says the Constitution guarantees. That's what the importance of a jury. So it's not left in one hand that somebody's benefited, and on top of it, here, let me divide your family. Then we're going to take you for child support, which, hey, guess what? That judge, that's part of my retirement fund. Kind of self-serving and illegal as hell, isn't it? You would think under common sense or common law it is. Why would you pay them that? Which is why your federal judges have a lifetime. No matter what happens or how they rule, they get paid the same regardless. No retirement funds, nothing. It's a one-time, this is what you get paid till you die. That's why it works. But these other judges, and they call themselves judges from state, they were never known. They call themselves judges. Matter of fact, it's an insult to federal judges for state people to call themselves judges, because they weren't, especially really true constitutionalist, attorneys and so on and so forth. They don't have the right really, because they're not judges. They're, we're under administrative law, or we're doing this or we're doing that. I mean, that was the whole thing of that other case we brought up of, if a judge has the ability, administrative judge has the ability, which, as Canada said, all of them are administrative courts. So if they have the ability to invoke civil penalties, that means take something from you, your children, your money, your property, any of those things. If that judge has that ability, you are required to have a trial by jury. That's what one of those case laws that we were telling you guys about that makes such a difference. If we just follow the rules like it's written under the Constitution with everything the way it's designed and actually put it to use, that's what I believe is getting ready to happen.
Yes, sir.
At the end of the day, when it comes down to it, all of these rules, these orders, these legislation, policies, procedures, that shit ain't for us. That's for the government. That is not for us. And people don't understand it. People have been lied to about a bunch of things. And so you've got all these people who literally, if you want to look at religion and look at school, what did they tell you to do? Sit down, shut up, and listen to what I tell you to. So that's what everybody knows now. So the families like ourselves, we're having to actually go out. We're having to seek the actual truth. That's why there's so many of us parents who, we're not attorneys, but I guarantee you we know more than most attorneys do. That's facts.
Well, that's a whole different night for a whole different conversation that I know Darren and I have talked about for a long time, and that goes deep, and there's a reason it goes deep.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Candace, we get Candace in on one of our after shows. I'm going to tell you something. This girl is a wealth of knowledge, my friend. Wealth. But what'd you have? What is on your brain, Candace? What'd you want to bring up?
Well, so, like, you remember my Randolph County case, right?
Yeah.
Where I had possession of a forged instrument. I already went to
Mhm.
prison over that. I went to prison due to the destruction of government property, right? Well, they dismissed that charge, Darren. I now have the ability to go back and take this into a civil suit and actually sue them because that's
Mhm.
what got Cadence taken from me in the first place.
Oh, sweet.
Remember how I was
Sweet.
saying, like, okay, so with how they did you with your charges,
Yeah.
they dismissed everything
Mhm.
on your end and they still took Nina from you.
Yeah.
I'm thinking me and you need to link up and start doing lawsuits.
Well, we got a bunch of good things going on, and with Gunner too, we all are in the same boat right here. I mean, we know that we all are in the same boat when all of this happened. But obviously, you and I are similar. But let's talk about the void ab initio for a minute, because you know that I feel, and Candace and I discovered void ab initio together one night on one of our day-long conversations, where we found it. We looked it up, and we said, "Holy shit, this stuff doesn't even have to be adjudicated." And we started researching it, and then we lost it. We didn't speak of it for over a year or two, and then we resurfaced. And if you notice, they've been chopping that away. They're trying to make it so that that's disappearing and falling into a voided order or voidable order, which is not that case at all. I'm convinced that that is the key for all of us to walk away from all of this the easiest method. But I mean, there are those that argue that with me, and so be it. But we have things in the works with that too. So like we have a lot of things going on this table and this panel right here alone. Now, like Gunnar and I were saying, we're trying to lead the way here. Let's lead the way to this stuff. Let everybody else come in behind us. You know what I mean? Like hedge the way. Let's just go through here and figure out the right way to do it, and everybody else can come behind. It's like being the point guy, you know?
And listen,
Oh,
guys,
I
I know
agree with
everybody
that.
wants their kids back and they want them back fast, but listen, the thing is, for this to end, it's got to be done, and it's got to be done right in a set of dominoes, because once it gets on there and once it gets out and once we win our case, and trust me, there's no way we're not with what we have. There's no way, because once it gets out, even the public eye, and it's filed, now we have a stage of everybody, it's filed. Because you guys understand too, with this comes a very, 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 very hefty price tag.
Oh
And
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
we may set precedents with it. But in other words, it's one of those things. But like I said, I would, there's still a lot of discussions when it comes to that. I don't know if they're going to be, there's no person that should have that. Well, at the same time, well, all 50 states shouldn't be committing treason, sedition, and working against the people to uncover this. And people have not done a damn thing. And it's happened because of this, and that. And we lay out the roadmap of basically saying this should have never happened to the people. This should have never happened to us. This is out of control. And whoever got in there to do what they did to allow Chevron to pass or whatever it was needs to stop. And we need to be keeping on it. If that means we need more judges to where they can keep up with case law, see, there's the number one thing that states don't do. States are not keeping up, which should be mandatory in every state, with federal case law and how it impacts every single case they do. You try taking some of this stuff that we've had with federal case law and putting it in some cases in some states that has happened with the information we provided with case laws, and some will roll over it. Some of them turn around and go, "Whoa, wait a minute, I can't do that." Because then all of a sudden they check themselves. There are some good people out there. Just not everybody's like that, and they're going to follow the law regardless, since it depends on the person. But these people that are out there for the money and could give a crap less about our Constitution, there is nothing there. We went through COVID-19. That was made very clear by the judicial branch of the government, which, according to our structure, defines what the law is in our land. Says under no circumstance are your constitutional rights ever abandoned, ever, for any reason, even in time of war or anything. Your rights are established and well established in this country as a person that resides in this country and from this country. Now, I want to address something that's up here in our comments. Al B says CPS gets away with not having a jury trial as they hold it mainly in juvenile court, which is not a protected right. Only adults have right to a jury. No, that is not true. Your constitutional rights apply to every living, breathing person, even a child. has those constitutional rights from the time they take breath to the time you leave this world. Those constitutional rights are supposed to be guaranteed protected. Whether you can protect them, such as children, you're not an adult until the age of 18 in this country. In other words, comparable to basically stand up for yourself. But once again, that's where public education fails, because you should know your rights by the time you're 18 to defend yourself and what's right and what's wrong in a non-biased thing. But we have too many colors of things. We have a loud gray area in the Constitution, and there doesn't need to be. It needs to be established and taught according to current case law, that what is defined of what's able to happen and what's not. Your kids know how to drive, but do they know what to do when a police officer pulls them over? We addressed this in the last show. Are your kids prepared? What's your reasonable articulated suspicion that you pulled me over? What have I done? You're speeding. Okay. And what law have I broken? Well, it's speeding. You're broken a state law. If you look at the ticket, what does it say? Your state's 2-letter abbreviation, and it will say code. So it'll say, like if I'm in Tennessee, it'll say Tennessee Code Annotated, TCA, okay, TNCA, or something like that, TCA. So it'll say Tennessee Code Annotated. Indiana is going to say Indiana Code Annotated or Indiana Code. Then you go back to the federal case law. All rules, regulations, and codes are for government only. In other words, they weren't meant for your basic citizen, your basic average day Joe. That was for commercial environment. Why? Not for the people. Why? Because it lacks due process, hence is automatically unconstitutional. That's what you're getting away with. And if your kids are not a civil penalty to destroy a family based off of one person's point of view, and let me tell you something, let me tell you how you get a fair trial. How is it you got 7 attorneys against one person? Vinny, how many did you have in your case? How many different people did you have against you, man? Remember we was talking about that?
Yeah, I got it.
Darren, how many you got in your case between the two cases? I mean, between the criminal side and the other?
Against me? Probably 12-1. Candace must have at least 100-1, I think, in her places. DOJ, all kinds of shit on that.
Now, please understand the information that you're getting. This is probably put out by the state, which is called propaganda and misinformation. They went as far as even to publish in all their codes, handbooks, and everything else, saying they have a right to violate your constitutional rights. We have that evidence. If you think that they're not gonna, if they're not gonna lie straight to your damn face about everything, you better wake up, because they lied to you. Whoever told you that? And that's what they do. But their audacity is enough to print it. They're bold enough to print that they have the right to violate your constitutional rights, and we have the evidence of it. So what makes you think they're not going to lie to you?
Just in my case, there's 7 attorneys involved. Between the two
against you or for you?
Against
for us. The first couple ones didn't do their jobs at all. One wouldn't even file motions. He agreed with CPS, so I knew he was on CPS's side, so I fired him. Yeah. She did the same thing because she was facing that problem as well. Agree to this. No, I'm not. I don't have to agree to contract. I don't have to agree to contract with these people. I never had a contract with these people.
Listen, they're going to lie to you. The state is going to lie. Why? Because it's money. And they're not following the Constitution in their courts anyway, because if they were doing things honestly, as soon as the judge come up, like, for example, in my one particular case, we tried to address some constitutional issues. The magistrate then turns, we don't deal with those things in our courtroom. Those were his words. And it's on record. Now, what he should have said, I don't have jurisdiction to answer that question that is about this case. Therefore, under that rule of law, I now don't have jurisdiction, is what he was saying. That's where it needs to stop and say, well, then this is a federal issue, regardless of your case. whether no matter what you're dealing with civilly, it's automatically a federal statute. If you have a constitutional issue with your interaction with somebody that has violated your constitutional rights in any form or manner of interaction with a government official, representative, actor, elected and or appointed person, I'm covering all the bases, so that covers all of you. If you work for the state, you are supposed to take and abide by the Constitution every bit of the way. That means entering into the home. That goes for everything, because trust me, federal case law, and which is what we're going back under with all this stuff, you're screwed. Caseworkers, you're going to jail.
Look, I just wanted to bring something to everybody's attention. If you haven't looked into it yet, you might want to look into it. That's going to be the oaths and the bonds of the judges and all public officials. That anybody who represents in a public capacity, they're supposed to have the oath and the bond. Also, you also want to look at the FARA registration, which is it's called the Foreign Act Registration or Foreign Agency Registration Act or something like that. But it's because our attorneys and our judges are bar, they're British accredited registry. They're not for the U.S., so they actually have to have this other thing, which is called the FARA. Right. I want to start looking into that.
All right, guys, hold on a minute. We owe Albie an apology, because she's absolutely right. The right to a jury trial is generally not considered a protected constitutional right in juvenile court proceedings. Listen to this, though. Hold on. Juvenile court proceedings in the absence of jury trials. The Sixth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution guarantees the right to a jury trial. In adult criminal proceedings, this protection does not necessarily extend to juvenile court cases. Juvenile courts, which handle matters related to minors accused of criminal offenses or in need of state intervention, operate under a different legal framework compared to the adult criminal justice system. The rationale behind the absence of jury trials in juvenile court is rooted in the rehabilitative and protective nature of the juvenile justice system. Unlike adult criminal trials, which focus on determining guilt and imposing punishment, juvenile court proceedings are primarily concerned with the best interests of the child and providing appropriative interventions and services. The Supreme Court has upheld that the distinction, ruling that lack of jury trials in juvenile court does not violate the Constitution's due process clause. The court has reasoned that the informality and flexibility of the juvenile justice system, along with its emphasis on rehabilitation, make the presence of a jury trial unnecessary. The absence of a jury trial in juvenile court has been a subject of ongoing debate and scrutiny. Critics argue that this deprives young offenders of important procedural safeguards and the opportunity to have their cases heard by a group of their peers. Opponents, on the other hand, contend that specialized nature of the juvenile justice system justifies the lack of jury trials as the focus remains on the welfare and rehabilitation of the child. So that's where we stand with that one.
Darren, let me clarify what I was trying to say.
Yep.
The reason, yes, children they have the same constitutional rights. Yes, they absolutely do. But until they're of the age of 18 of accountability, that they feel you're an adult, where you can enjoy all the protections and understand the protections of your constitutional rights, you are there under the custody of your parents, is what it is.
Right. No, understood. I understand where you're coming
in and saying you're a bad parent, taking over your parental role, including protecting the constitutional rights of the child, is what they're claiming. But
right. Well, I think what she was trying to state is that the juvenile courts are that provision isn't allowed, or it doesn't happen there. That's all she was saying. And I understand where you're coming from, but I read what she said again. I'm like, no, she's not saying that. She's saying that in the juvenile court, they're not allowed. They're not given this as a right or a reasoning, and that's the reasoning why. That's all.
Yes.
Just clarifying the whole thing.
But as far as their rights, adults have rights is where I was going off that part of the statement of going, no, we all have rights from here to here. That is clear. But up until you're of the age of 18, you are under the protection and or guidance of the people that basically birthed you, which is why you have parents. Once you get the courts involved and you're under legal contract with a marriage license, now, yes, they have every right, those kids. Why? Because your marriage is under contract. And when you dissolved your marriage, part of the marriage or that we'll consider those that have to be then managed assets until they're 18 and become independent as far as what the court is concerned. But if you don't give them that power or authority to where you go under common law marriage, or you don't register them a lot with a lot of other things that you find out. Basically, I'm not part of that system. You don't have to be. That's 100%. The participation in the Social Security Fund is 100% voluntary. It's not mandatory. If you decide not to get a Social Security card, you don't have to. And if you turn around and tell me I'm lying, you better check with the Amish or Native Americans that are living on the reservation.
Actually, to tell you the truth, you're right about that. You don't have to have a Social Security number. But what I did find out is you do have to have, ironically, a telephone number, which is very odd. I don't quite understand the telephone number, considering the telephone number isn't how they get credit. But anybody that asks for your Social Security number, there's
because there's no money in the telephone, darling. There's no money in the telephone one. That's why. That's why they use the Social Security number. It gives them access.
No, but she's saying that you have to have a telephone number, not a Social Security number.
You have to maintain what's called an open form of communication with those that need to get in touch with you for this particular thing as a resident, and or some people use the word citizen of this country. They have to have a way of doing that. We have telephones now. Before, it was by mail. I'm familiar with what you're talking about. That goes back to a very old form of communication to serve that comes up under the draft, and there's many aspects of that. So the draft is basically done into this. So when you apply for the draft, you have to be able to be in some form of contact with them. Hence, the need arrives that you're to serve or they activate the draft. That is part of kind of like a little loophole of things. Hey, we can add that because of the draft, and they can legally add those particular things that have those things for that particular reason. Once again, it's, a lot of it has to do with it. And there's a lot of questions that come up of, I don't have to. And the drafts was a lot of big questions that people even questioned then, because people weren't volunteering because they were seeing through the bullshit. So then they initiated the draft. That's no, Albie, we don't want you to hush now. The point is interaction, to talk to our listeners, to get some of their things, to bring up topics that do need to be addressed, because there's a lot of people out there that are being told a lot of things, and you have to be very careful, as far as what you're saying, as far as, like you said, there was a lot in what you said with there is no rights. No, you have rights. And the reason, then it goes into juvenile. Well, the reason is because of that, and the way it's structured is because you have bad parents. So if you're in juvenile court, hence you get that misnomer. If you're a bad parent, you're in juvenile court. No. Family court system has grown so much into such an enterprise and business. They bet on you not keeping your family together. Not... and having
they
broken
actually
homes,
have an incentive for that.
Yeah, to divide your homes.
Yeah,
they want this because now that has divided a sense of protector with a lot of stuff, and we've talked about this as guys. It's just the basic things, and you can call it what it is. You're not coming in my home. You don't do this, and they know psychologically, and trust me, there's reports on that women are easier to gain access into the home than the men. There's a report on that. Because they don't feel like they want to offend. They need to be welcoming, inviting, this and that. A lot of people don't understand. No, even when I'm not home, you got that, somebody comes in, you handle it with your Second Amendment if you have to, if you're castle doctrine around. There's somebody coming into your house that unless you give explicit permission for them to come in, family member, or an open one to where you give them a key saying at any given time, I give you permission. Why? I gave you a key. There's a lot to giving a key to somebody legally, what that means. I mean, there's a lot to that we don't think they're just simple interactions. I just give somebody a key just to no, when you give them a key, you're giving them legal entry into your home, and constitutionally saying, I'm giving you legal entry to come in. You're giving them access. So there's a lot to that, and that's found a lot in case law of what is defined. And even though what we believe is one thing, but what the law says is something completely different. And what we have been allowing in some cases, even in our own homes, our own families, certain things we're comfortable with doing, we need to really stop and rethink that, because it's not very legal. And we're teaching our children bad habits, and we're not protecting ourselves, let alone our homes. Right now, They're all in the homes with CPS and police and everything else. And that they want in your home for some. I don't know what it is about it that they want into the home so bad, but that's way up there with some of the cases that they deal with federally is illegal entry. I mean, what is it with the home that you want to? That's a psychological break for somebody to come into their home. You violated my personal space.
Yeah, you
You
created
violated
an
my home.
uncomfortability, right?
You're not supposed to be here. You weren't invited.
Mm-hmm.
There's the problem. You weren't supposed to be here. You're not supposed to be here. You don't
This
have a
is
legal
tight.
right
High
to my
stuff,
house.
right? Absolutely.
And we don't respect that. And when you come back around and you say the same thing to some of these people, and I guarantee you do the same thing to some of these police officers, and something happens to them, and they turn around, the first thing they're going to tell you is go get a warrant. They're going to tell you the same damn thing. They ain't going to let you look around. They're going to get defensive. Why? Because I guarantee you when it comes to their own, they'll protect their rights.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as they get in
They
the
do
home,
that. They do that to crush you. They crush you. Crush that security. They crush that on you. They take that away from you. Once they take that away from you, you're defenseless.
is get entry to give them a firsthand experience of what they see and they can testify of to get a warrant. But the issue is the actual entry itself was the illegal part. As soon as they broke the law, it's called fruit from a poisonous tree doctrine. And it applies both in civil and federal civil and criminal cases, doesn't it, Darren?
Mm-hmm.
That
Sure
means
does.
if you broke a law or constitutional right, anything after that you've collected is inadmissible in any courtroom, civil or criminal. So that's why we've been getting on you guys about filing about your Fourth Amendment rights violation and then changing jurisdiction over to federal. And who gives a shit what the state says? File it anyway. They don't have jurisdiction. They can't tell you not to. It's a crime. Matter of fact, if they told you not to, file it anyway and put in there to the federal judge for the change of jurisdiction when you do it. I was told not to do this, Your Honor. What's that word that they were, sanctions that they were talking about, the thing with Trump, that they went after those attorneys that filed that bogus thing up in New York, sanctions. You know what that means for an attorney?
I know what it means for a district attorney because Vinny's got that going on this week. You got sanctions on the DA up there.
That's serious. These are terms that everybody's like, well, why do I know this? Why? Because you need to be educated about our legal system. And that's why it's so messed up, because so many people are just lacking that knowledge of how it works, why it works, and how people that did figure out the way it works, there's a benefit to them keeping people ignorant. They make money off of ignorance. They have hundreds of years now, over 100 years.
They get money off. It's just ridiculous what they do to us. See what Albie says right here? She says, I just gone with CPS because I pulled my daughter from a state-run hospital. Case closed, but the threat is there. The moment I pull my toys to the door, UNC will call again. Man, that's terrible.
Trust me. Medical, big pharma. Listen, these are for-profit. This was done, I found out under Richard Nixon. Old Tricky Dicky was the one that allowed hospital or medicine to be a for-profit business. Since then, look at what it's done. It's turned into big pharma. I mean, when you're talking about that, we've already told you guys about what was going on about people being trafficking their babies to where they're giving these women girls during labor and delivery and then drug testing the baby and the mother. And, oh, wait, we tested positive for this stuff. We're taking the baby because
they're doing that a lot now. They're doing that an awful lot now, man. And that's ridiculous. Without permission, without anything.
Oh, it's coming up. It's getting wise because there's mothers that have turned around with everything else that didn't even realize it when they went to court. And they go, Your Honor, of course I tested positive. Wait a minute, you're admitting to it? Your Honor, it's in the epidural. And they bring the ingredients of the epidural. And sure enough, it's on that list. And look, of course I popped for it. I took it. The hospital administered it and then punished me by taking my baby and then reporting me for being positive for drugs when they gave me the drugs in the hospital. And unless you can prove it was before that, which you can't, that means it's a false case. Dismissed. Unless you can prove otherwise, case is dismissed. Is there a history? Is there this? Is there that? Is there a history of this and that? No. Oh, well, she got
Mhm.
busted back when she was 16, or this and that was a little bit of, Mary Jane.
It
But wait
doesn't
a
matter.
minute,
The Supreme
Mary
Court
Jane
has already ruled that drug use and anything to do with the drugs it doesn't affect you as being a parent. It's not a reason to TPR
No.
anybody. Yet they're doing it left and right.
There's people out there that are reporting from CPSs that CPSs are actually ordering negative, actual real tests, but they're buying the knockoffs and everything else that has a chance of throwing a positive when there's no damn positive. And understand this: CPS, that's illegal seizure of your bodily fluids. They can threaten you all you want or anything.
That's what Roe versus Wade is about right there.
Yes.
That's what Roe versus Wade is about. It's about how much the government is allowed to intrude in your body without you paying attention to it or without you saying that you have to or not. That's what the bottom line is. That had nothing to do with abortion. Abortion was just the piece that they used it for the time and what they needed it for. But
it was how the law was read.
This belongs to you and nobody else. Right here. This belongs to you, not the government.
Yep.
This is all your right to privacy.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what that whole thing was about.
And now you come to find out they're doing false tests and everything else. You got to understand the illegal part about that is they're not a certified fucking lab. And to be in court, it has to be certified. That bullshit drug test that your CPS worker gave you is not in this court.
That's not a drug test. That's what do they call that? That's a drug. It's not a drug test. It's a what is it, baby? Yeah, they're screens. Those aren't drug tests. They're screens, man.
Yeah,
screens are not admissible in court.
No.
Thank you, honey. So people need to listen. Okori Okorocha is one of the best. He is the best toxicologist in the country, man. Go to his website. They call him 00. Check him out. He's a friend of ours here at the show. But his name is Okori Okorocha. If you have any sort of toxicology issue, look him up, man. And this
Thanks,
guy
Wendy. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, invite your friends and tell everybody about us. Thanks for having us. Hope you learned something today and it helped educate some people. Sorry, so we had some out there.
Next time. I subbed. I'll be back because I only need to look. All right.
Okay, CPS as far as 14 and 16, you live in campers. I would go to the manufacturers of the campers and see whether or not they're rated and go under their federal rating and everything else, whether or not they are suitable for any kind of short-term, long-term living thing, which they are. You turn that in and say, look, these are federally regulated. Regardless, you're being discriminatory. And that's against the law because it says right here under the federal, as it's registered with its certifications, it is suitable for housing. And you can go to the manufacturers for those things.
Yeah, you know what? That's great advice. That is freaking good stuff right there, Gunner. Man, why didn't I think of that?
Manufacturers, you got to understand, manufacturers that put out a product have a rating and everything else in a code system for, if it's campers, there's a certain rating that it has to go through. If it's rated for waterproof, it's called an IP rating. We dealt with an electrical, it's how waterproof it is. It has to meet a certain threshold for an IP rating to be considered livable, not able to grow mold or some of the other things that are able there. If it stands alone with what it is and maintained up to certain standards. If it has toilets and indoor plumbing and all that other stuff, it has to meet a federal code to be on there for the stink stacks and everything else. So there is so much government regulation on an RV, even campers and stuff like that. Even if you don't have a pooper in it, and it depends on what it is, there's that, federally, they have people that live out of campers all the time down in Florida, down in California. If you're saying you're going to discriminate in this particular state against the whole RVing industry, you kind of just shut all your vacationers in. There goes all your tourism. You better think about this. So you're going to have to look at short-term and long-term. It doesn't affect that. This case gets out and there's your PR spin. What is that going to say to anybody that camps in your state? You don't consider that housing. So when they come here on vacation with their pull behind trailers or RVs or anything else, you're going to come take their kids because it's not livable. You really need to think about this because there's.
Well, what are they doing in North Carolina? They're doing the same thing in North Carolina right now, right?
Yeah. That's not suitable. I mean, that's not suitable. Once again,
do
you know about North Carolina?
I did hear about North Carolina, but I do want to say this. I've been running into a lot of families that been having issues with CPS coming in because they stay in a hotel. First and foremost, I do want to say this. Granted, this is the state of New York. However, the state of New York, CPS, places families in hotels. So, with that being said, this is New York. If New York says it's okay for a family to live in a hotel, I'm pretty sure it'd be okay to live in a camper. You have water, you have power, you have a place to lay your head.
Yep.
They give out, okay, so in Alabama, when I was dealing with DHR CPS down in Alabama, they have what's called this university box organization college thing, right? You go online. The DHR worker is the one who told me about this. They literally give you a box for your newborn child to sleep in. So I don't really, honestly, I don't see where a camper is not suitable for a family to live in. Just saying.
Oh, that's funny.
Well,
that you
I
say
can
that.
tell you why that works in one place and it doesn't, because you're looking at a metropolitan area or a largely populated area to where there is mass overpopulation, especially in mass cities and everything else, versus the rules of the country. And there's two different methods. So how does one rule take and fit for both the city and county without being discriminatory? Because if it's okay for a baby to be in a box there, but then you go down to Georgia or other places to where this is common thing, it's okay in one state but not okay in another. That's where the thing of the sovereignty of the states come in. I get that. But once you go under how they're federally regulated of being okay in each and every state to be camping in, that's where you have to fight them. Otherwise, like I said, it's spinning your wheels. That's like some of the people with CPS that we're doing that's been going on. Everybody's been trying to find a way to take it down or fight it or do anything else until Darren and I come together and go, now we have the evidence. Now we have what we need.
I'm gonna tell you how to do that one. I'm gonna give you a real quick rundown. I did a real
Save
deep
it.
thing on this.
Save it, Candace. Save it for a private
Oh, I
conversation.
know. We're conversating. So there's a lot going out there, and a lot of it we can't put out there. But understand, there's some that we have just to educate people, just to give you an idea of what's going on, and they're proud enough that it doesn't matter. It's public knowledge because they printed the fact that they could do some of those things. That's something they can't hide. The thing is you look at these books and stuff they hand to you, and you don't realize how many felonies that they're handing you in that damn book of things they say they have the right to do that is completely unconstitutional. That's what that particular Chevron case allowed these people to build up to where they are today. We've allowed it. And we were talking in the other show of it used to be neighborhoods just took care of things. Now,
Brenda, the reason why they didn't take the kids because you didn't have water, I'm going to tell you right now, it's because you can buy water at a gas station. I don't understand why they would do that as far as like when it comes to power, because you can buy power through a gas station. You can use generators. They've got candles. They've got solar power now. But as for your particular situation, I personally have dealt with that when I was younger. And they told my baby daddy's parents that they could not touch my children because I didn't have water because you could buy it, which ironically, I had cases of water sitting in my house. So they really couldn't do anything. So, but again,
listen,
that's
you got to know how to talk to it too. Just defend yourself of saying, "There's no requirement I have to have running water, but I have water." See, the thing, the devil's in the details. You can't put in there, "I don't have water." You need to put, "I don't have running water, but I have bottled water." That's a full report, and that's where these caseworkers don't look at it objectively. And this is the thing, and Sharon put on there, a lot of the CPS calls are subjective. It can depend on the perspective of the caseworker. There's the big constitutional issue. Nobody has a right to tell me how to live and how not to live in this country. If I decide I want to live dirt poor, off the grid, never make a thing, and I pay for my land, and you leave me alone, and I work that land my entire life and never sell anything, but I sustain everything. I never make a living, but I survive and I have food on my table, but I don't want to work with the monetary system. There's some people that do that, especially in places like Hawaii and other places in California, that they kind of live completely off grid. I don't want that stuff in there's some places trying to criminalize that. Absolutely. But part of the Constitution says I get to choose that. Why? Because That falls under my freedom of religion, my belief system. I don't believe in living like that. And unless I'm harming somebody or you show direct harm of the way I'm doing of not living with all the modern stuff, you have no case. Because then that's their thing. Oh my God, you're depriving that child of so much education because you don't let them have internet all the time. I've heard caseworkers and study and stories of that. You don't have internet here? You trying to keep your children ignorant? Damn. No, I just prefer not to have them exposed to that. That's the first thing they'll go after homeschoolers for. Where's your television? We don't do TV. We read books. I have a choice in part of your constitutional right under your religious beliefs or your belief system, which is under religion, First Amendment. I have a right to. And the government doesn't have the right to come in and tell me that's wrong. And there's the problem with the local government is they think they're big brother and tell you what to do and what's good and what's right. And guess what? That's not the way it works because the contract is by us, we the people, not the government down. You better take and read that again. We are the government. You are the elected and appointed officials to represent us. And as soon as you quit representing us or you commit felonies, we will hold you accountable. Whether it's now or 10 years later or 20 years later, because those case laws change as Chevron did. And guess what? It's hunting season. And Rabbit got the gun now. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Boys,
and
when
people are waking up because he educated himself. Then he's over here kicking some butt with some case law and a few things and having some conversation and gaining some knowledge. Why? Because we quit getting entertained by stuff like the television that does nothing for you and absorb some knowledge through some books or run down rabbit holes on things that you have questions for. You're all looking right now, some of you don't have a clue where to start in your case or what your rights are. A scary feeling, isn't it? Now you should blame the Department of Education with a lawsuit of saying, why didn't you prepare me to be a basic citizen to where I could take and even understand this stuff or why this is happening? Nobody told me this.
They stopped.
See, that's part of your contract too. Yeah. Fortunately, I was good enough to have a government teacher that, well, he wasn't exactly one of those things, but he was one of the hippies against NOM and some of the other things, even though he went to NOM. He got drafted. And he was the first one to talk about your constitutional rights and the crap that they were doing. I mean, the experiments, the crazy stuff they were doing, LSD, propaganda, all these things, Nixon administration, JFK. You're talking about some wild times in this country that if you don't know your history, that's where we're at now is because of those things. You need to take and wake up. And it's not just what the storybooks tell, because right now, those history books and everything else that you've been listening to, they ain't accurate at all.
They lied.
You want to take and do something? Go read about the letters that Thomas Jefferson would write. Where they
Hey, you want to read about something? Read my book.
There you go.
That's right. Stay calm. CPS is coming.
CPS is coming.
Make sure you guys pick it up. Pick it up for Christmas. Give it to someone that needs to learn about CPS.
Listen, they want money. This is about college-educated people with degrees and this and that they have no sense with some of it about. They don't teach a constitutional class. I mean, they put these kids in indoctrination camps is what it's come down to. And it's been called out by the universities and everything else. You're teaching people stuff that's unconstitutional and illegal. You're training them to fail. Nobody questions right away with a CPS worker to turn around, and most of them don't have kids, but I guarantee if you had kids and raised them and you turn around and go, do you think I'd let somebody in my home or anything else like that with this? No, it's my home. So why is everybody just so free to do it? Why? Because they're from the government. No, you're the government. They have rules that they have to follow, and you need to hold them accountable.
And
that's why all this is getting ready to get done and over with. All your case laws done, family court, we're going to bring in enough to bring it all to light. What we're working on.
Amen
and
to you.
Once it's filed in a court, that's where the rubber meets. Listen, guys, that's where the rubber meets the road. As soon as you start getting into that federal courtroom and you're filing federal courtroom, because that state starts knocking in boots fast. Because you know what that federal judge is going to tell anybody from the state or whoever's representing the other side from the state? Because as soon as they say anything about, well, the state of this and that, federal court's going to say, I don't care. We're here about constitutional issues and federal matters that need to be addressed in this particular case, and we got a serious problem. Because you entered a home without anything. Now we got a problem. That's a criminal act, and you just condoned and covered it up.
Yeah. Wait till you two see what I just sent you. You're gonna be like, what? That's written.
Oh, yeah.
It's written the correct way.
So,
Hey guys,
listen, guys, a lot of this is just, we're going back to the Constitution. And you're going to be amazed at the amount of damage that was done in just a little over 40 years from the Chevron Doctrine and what it allowed. I don't care what you call it, corporation, deep state, the underlings, whatever it may be, that allowed them to make tons of money by violating your constitutional rights. Because some of these case laws we've mentioned, they're retroactive. They can go back 10, 20 years. So even if you had a case 10, 20 years ago and you didn't get what you needed and the law wasn't followed, you got a case. That's the whole point.
all right, guys, we're at that time. Let's do some last words here.
All right.
Hey, you want to start them?
Yeah, I'll start them.
All right.
I hope you guys all have a good evening. Remember, we got the Tiff and Punisher show tomorrow at 7 p.m. to 8 o'clock. Don't miss it, or you have to go back and rewatch it.
Yeah, good
then
work.
we have the 9 o'clock show, as always, every weekday. And don't forget our new show starting Saturdays. We've already started one show. And it's the main show for all you people dealing with Maine CPS. We're trying to get some knowledge out to you guys that we have of ourselves that live in Maine, me and Darren, and another great guy that we have in the show.
Yeah, you should have definitely checked out last week's for sure. The Angry Citizen, he was rocking. But who we got this week, Vinny? We got anybody coming up?
I'm trying to work on a couple things, but I'm dealing with the whole going to court Thursday, so I'm trying to get my mind focused. Just in case I'm asked to speak and I can sit there and I'm gonna be right point blank to the judge.
Damn right
If
you
he
are.
asks me to speak, I'm not holding back my tongue.
Well, you just remember.
Constitutional right, buddy. You have a right to be heard.
Yes, you do, but don't get tongue twisted, bud.
Yeah, I know.
All right, Candace, you got some last words?
No, sir.
No,
I'm
Candace, we
blank-minded
never had
today.
anybody talk about.
She's blank-minded.
Blank-minded, sorry.
I have never heard your mouth get shut before.
Oh, I know it.
This is the first.
You're lucky
I'm
you
gonna
got
write
me
this
on
down.
here right now.
I know. I thank you very much for coming on. I really do. It's means a lot.
It was a pleasure, Candace.
Yeah.
Glad to
no
have you
problem.
on the show.
I used to be on here all the time with Darren, but then I started working, which now I injured my rotary cup at work. They ended up firing me, even though I had a doctor's note. So now I got a whole issue going on there. But now my schedule opened right back up.
That just means you be back with us more now. That's all.
Yeah.
Hey, we ought to get her
All
on
right.
the Saturday show, Darren.
Yes, we should. We'll get her in with us. See you on Saturday for sure. Hey, Gunner, last words, buddy?
All right, guys. Listen, if you guys don't tune into the Tiff and Punisher show, Tiff is going to be out this Thursday. I am going to be substituting with my good buddy Darren to kick some ass and piss some people off this Thursday at 7:30 right here on the Tiff and Punisher show. I'll be filling in. I appreciate you guys giving me a little time. My son just got back home, so I took a little break there to kind of get reacquainted a few things, but we're still fighting the good fight. We've got some good things in the works, and we look forward to sharing more with you guys as we take and go along, and just share that knowledge, and hopefully be able to help you guys out the best we can, answer some questions, and please understand you're not alone. And no, it is not right what you're going through. It's not what our Constitution was designed to do. It wasn't what our community or anything else to do, and it comes down to just basic greed. And this is what happens when the government turns around and says, let me create some jobs. This is where CPS started creating jobs. So be very wary when the government starts taking and saying, hi, I'm from the government. I'm here to help. Be very afraid. Be very afraid.
That is true. Yes, sir. All right, everybody. As you can see, we got a lot going on this week. We got a lot more going on. So I appreciate everybody sharing this. And I mean, we're growing right now, guys. So it's really awesome that you're all supporting us like this. So thank you very much. But don't forget to like, subscribe, share, all of that good stuff. And hey, I'm the CPS Punisher. And we are going to be out of here right out now. Have a good one, everybody. We see you guys tomorrow night.
Bad timing. No. Clapper don't work, Darren.
Come on.
Fix clapper.
Clapper work.
Clap, clap, clap,
I know it. We were almost so close. There we go. All right.
Don't forget the link to the after show, everybody.
Nope, we'll do. Oh, see? Clap again. There we go. All right, everybody. Have a good night.
The world getting crazy, baby, chill. Don't medicate, just meditate. You waking up now, well, baby, you hella late. Educate, look at what's going on, let it resonate, accelerate. Find your inner hunger like you never ate. Agenda is to push the hate. Separate and segregate, don't celebrate quite yet. The storm is coming through, for heaven's sake. Violence that they demonstrate, instigate and penetrate the values of our country, and our God is what they desecrate. My fighters ain't no featherweight, pulling out the seams of the fabric that they fabricate. They fighters lies manipulate, intimidate, defend force, forcing us to sit and wait till we come together, congregate, then we liberate. Praying that you give me strength to find some love amongst the hate. Marching on the streets of blood till I see the golden gates. Troubadour, troubled souls, one of God's servants. Blades out, cut the grass till we see the servants.
One day I hope you see the truth. This puppet show it stays on because of you fools. We've been dancing with the devil long. Oh, it's fun, but get ready to lose. Oh, God, come back home. This crazy world is filled with liars and abusers. We need you now before we're too far gone. I hope one day they finally see the truth. God, we need you now.
I know the truth is hard to swallow, just digest it. Suspect that something's going on, chose to just neglect. Deflected by some, just accepted, expected just to fall in line and follow their perspective. Don't question their objective, but I got a lot of questions. How these kids molested, but nobody's been arrested. Ready to take the no protected, so I'm fighting all these terrorists, both foreign and domestic. Refuse to be directed, lying not a sheep. Only kneel to my God, so I'm dying on my feet. Silence when we speak, but there's violence in the street. I've been rolling with the punches, I can't take it on the cheek. Drink from a glass half full, I'm optimistic. People are sadistic, so vicious and malicious. Praying for assistance to overcome opposition. No, I'm good. Stop resisting, and then I pray for
One day I hope you see the truth. This puppet show it stays on because of you fools. We've been dancing with the devil way too long. I know it's fun, but get ready to pay. We need you now before we're too far gone. I hope one they finally see the truth. God, we need you now. We need you now. We need you now. One day, one day, one day, I hope you see the truth. Oh, it stayed on because of you fools. We've been dancing with the devil way too long. I know it's fun, but get ready to pay your dues. Oh God, come back home. This crazy world is filled with liars and abusers. We need you now before we're too far gone. I hope one day they finally see the truth. God, we need